Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Borderlands 3 video. Now that the Borderlands Remastered Let's Play is out of the way, I feel as though now is a great time to sit down and catch up on some news and details in regards to Borderlands 3, specifically the weapon brands. I haven't made a video on this yet, but the weapon brands in Borderlands 3 are going to be absolutely freaking phenomenal. We're going to have new brands, old brands, and returning brands that we haven't seen in a while, and the best part about it is every single one of those brands is going to do multiple unique things as compared to the one unique thing that we're used to seeing in the Borderlands franchise. If you think back to the original game, we had S&S munitions, which was known for large magazine sizes, and in Borderlands 2, for example, we had Torg, which was known for explosive damage, essentially. We had Malwan, which was other elemental damage. We had Vladoff, which was known for high fire rates, but that was pretty much it, right? Well, in Borderlands 3, they're going to be doubling down on that quite a bit, and we're going to be covering all this news here in today's video. Let's kick things off here with one of the returning brands, Atlas, which of course we saw back in the original game, but we have not really seen since the original game. If you followed the events of Tales from the Borderlands, then you know exactly why Atlas is coming back. But Atlas weapons in Borderlands 3, here's their description. It says, Step 1, hit your enemies with tracker tags. Step 2, unleash a hail of smart bullets that track towards your targets. Step 3, loot. So it's looking like Atlas is making a return, but they're going to feature tracker tags, which are going to shoot out smart bullets, which could potentially hunt down your enemies around corners and things like that. That sounds super interesting to me. Of course, the gameplay reveal for Borderlands 3 is about 1 week away. I'm going to be there at the event in Los Angeles recording footage, and I cannot wait to try out these Atlas weapons. These sound absolutely freaking fantastic. Moving along here, we have Jacob's weapons, which are kind of known for being basically just Old West weapons, right? High damage, very bad fire rate, really no elemental effects whatsoever, and that's pretty much it. And in my opinion, Jacob's weapons are typically pretty bad because they do high damage, but in like Ultimate Ball Hunter mode, that's pretty pointless, right? You need elemental effects, you need high fire rates, you need things like that. Like in the core game, Jacobs are fine, but at end game, Jacobs are typically pretty poor, and they're going to be trying to alleviate that to some extent in Borderlands 3. If you look at the brand description, it says, deliver devastating critical hits to enemies, soft and sensitives, then joy puke as your bullets ricochet towards other targets. So no longer are Jacob's weapons just going to be high damage Old West weapons, they're going to be the weapons that give you the best critical hit damage in the game, while also making it so when you hit those crits, your bullets are going to ricochet towards other targets in the area. So Jacob's weapons go from kind of meh, kind of mediocre, to potentially being really good in Borderlands 3. Moving along here, we have Hyperion, which this is super interesting to me because you would think that Hyperion is gone after the events of Borderlands 2 and Tales from the Borderlands, but apparently Hyperion is going to be back with a brand new logo, perhaps new leadership. We really have no idea. It's also entirely possible that what we're looking at are just going to be prototype weapons from Hyperion that they sent off to other planets that were not Pandora, but we now discover them in Borderlands 3. We have no freaking idea, but Hyperion is back, and their description reads, aim down the sights to take cover behind your weapon-mounted shield and keep your finger on the trigger for increased accuracy. So the longer you shoot your gun, it's going to get more accurate, which is a staple of Hyperion weapons from Borderlands 2. But also, when you aim down sight with your Hyperion weapon, you're going to have a weapon-mounted shield that is going to protect you. How freaking interesting is that? They are really doubling down on weapon variety here in Borderlands 3. Moving along here, we have my personal favorite weapon brand, Malwan, which apparently Malwan is going to be an evil corporation in this game. We have no idea as of right now, but it's looking like they're going to be the bad guys. But the description for Malwan reads, toggle between two elements, charge your weapon, and deal guaranteed elemental damage with your finger glued to the trigger. So with Malwan, you're going to be able to switch between two different elements with the same gun. How freaking cool is that? Like in Borderlands 2, I don't know about you guys, but I have a fire weapon, a shock weapon, a slag weapon, and a corrosive weapon, right? I basically have the entire gambit there ready to go for whatever I may end up facing. Well, apparently with Malwan weapons, we're going to be able to toggle between two elements as well as charge up our weapons, which is interesting. Perhaps there's going to be a delay between when you can switch over to a new element and actually have that element take effect. Like, picture it like you have a fire SMG, but you want to switch over to shock. Maybe it takes a little bit for that to actually charge up. I have no idea, but apparently Malwan weapons will be able to to carry 2 elements at one time, which is pretty freaking fantastic. Kind of like maybe the, what's it called, the Florentine that we had in Borderlands 2. Maybe it's going to be something like that. I really have no idea. But moving along here, guys, we have Torg. And Torg says, switch between regular and sticky projectile fire modes. Stickies do more damage if a bunch of them detonate on the same target. So no longer are Torg weapons just going to be cool-looking explosive weapons, essentially. They're going to allow you to switch between a regular fire mode and a sticky projectile fire mode. That's definitely pretty cool, and fingers crossed, guys, fingers freaking crossed, that Mr. Torg himself plays a large role in Borderlands 3, because he is one of my favorite characters in the franchise. He's freaking hilarious every time he pops up, and in my opinion, Mr. Torg's Campaign of Carnage is probably the best DLC that we had in Borderlands 2. So yeah, fingers crossed he plays a role in this game, and these Torg weapons definitely sound pretty interesting. Moving along, we have Vladoff weapons, and it says, augment these rapid-firing, ammo-hungry guns with underbarrel attachments, including tasers, rocket tubes, and additional gun barrels. So in Borderlands 2, as you guys know, Vladoff weapons were basically just Russian-inspired weapons that had a high fire rate. Well, now we're going to be able to heavily augment our Vladoff weapons with different attachments and rocket tubes, apparently, and gun barrels and things like that. That sounds really cool. It's still going to have the high fire rate. It said right there, these rapid-firing, ammo-hungry guns, but apparently we're going to be able to really customize them, which is definitely pretty cool. Moving on here, we have TDR, which has always been kind of like my least favorite brand. I hate that when you reload, you toss out your magazine, because that wastes so much ammo, and I have this compulsion to always reload when my magazine's not full. But the description for TDR is, toss your gun like a grenade to reload, then watch it pursue a nearby enemy as a fully loaded version digistructs in your hand. So basically, it's going to be the same TDR that we all know from the previous games, but this time around, the guns are going to run around and chase enemies. So maybe from now on, you won't have to be 100% accurate. Like in Borderlands 2, when you toss out that magazine, you have to basically hit your enemy with it to have it do damage, right? But apparently now, you don't have to do that. You can just throw it anywhere, and it's going to run around shooting at your enemies. I imagine there are going to be many different versions of that, and all in all, TDR sounds a lot more interesting in this game as compared to the previous ones. Next up, we have Dahl, and I must admit that the Dahl weapons are some of my least favorite weapons in Borderlands, mostly because I like going full auto as compared to burst fire most of the time. Well, apparently that's not going to be an issue in this game, because the description for Dahl reads, toggle between alternate fire modes depending on your playstyle, your predicament, and your predilection for bonus damage. So, ladies and gentlemen, apparently when it comes to Dahl, we're going to be able to swap around between maybe single fire and burst fire and full auto, and maybe we get different damage bonuses based on what fire mode we're currently in. We really have no idea as of right now, but apparently Dahl weapons are going to be a lot more interesting this time around. And last but not least, we have the Cov weapons, otherwise known as Children of Vault weapons. These are basically going to be the bandit weapons of Borderlands 3, and the description reads, enjoy uninterrupted damage dealing, courtesy of quote-unquote infinite ammo magazines, occasionally interrupted by unpredictable overheating. So, apparently these are going to be some really large magazine sizes. I've also got to say, these look a little bit like Iridium weapons. Like, I'm kind of wondering, like, how are the Iridium weapons and E-Tech weapons and stuff like that going to play into Borderlands 3? And maybe the Children of the Vault weapons are going to be kind of like the Iridium weapons of this game. We really have no idea as of right now, guys, but it definitely looks pretty interesting considering the fact that we have quote-unquote infinite magazine sizes that are going to randomly just overheat, and we definitely saw some really weird-looking guns in the trailers that we've got so far for Borderlands 3. So, as always, I'll keep you guys posted as we learn more, and again, we are 1 week away from the gameplay reveal, which I guess we're going to learn everything about these weapon types and these brands once we can actually see the game at the gameplay reveal. So, as always, I'll keep you guys posted with more details as they become available, but all in all, I must say, I am very excited about the weapon brands that we're going to have in Borderlands 3. I mean, we're talking about 9 different weapon brands that we know of so far, and every one of them does multiple different things, right? And and then of course you take all the legendary effects and unique effects and stuff like that. Like, this game is going to have so much weapon variety. I am very freaking excited. But based on what we've learned so far, based on the descriptions that we have of the different weapon brands in Borderlands 3, I would love to know down there in the comments, what brand are you most excited for? For me personally, I'm still a Malwan fan, right? I'll probably not be a Malwan fan after they're the bad guys in Borderlands 3, and we'll see what they're going to do, but I still like elemental weapons. I've always really liked the Malwan guns in Borderlands, though I have to say, if they can make Jacob weapons really good in this game, they may actually become my favorite weapons in the game, because I love the Old West look. Like, the aesthetic of Jacob's weapons has always been really good to me, but the actual functionality of them has always been pretty bad. Like, in normal mode, sure, they're fine. In true Vault Hunter mode, maybe even then, sure, they're fine. But when it comes to endgame, like, do you really find yourself using Jacob's weapons that much in Borderlands 2? Probably not, outside of a couple of exceptions. So I'm hoping that this increased critical hit damage and bullet ricochet and stuff like that, I'm hoping that Jacobs is going to be a much better brand this time around. And I'd love to hear what you guys think down there in the comments. But ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you guys here today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop me a rating. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.